Hey everybody, I'm here to do a video ranking my least favorite Beatle album to my most favorite Beatle album. And I'm of course going to use just the Beatles British albums, so the 13 official albums they released while they were a band. And I've seen a bunch of other people here in the vinyl community post this video, and it's almost an impossible task, but I'm going to do my best. And like a lot of other of you have said, um, my list is probably going to change from today till tomorrow. But I tried to do what another YouTube maker did. His name is Fit to be Tie-Dyed, and and kind of do it based on what I tend to listen to the most. So yeah, okay, enough of me talking. Here we go. So number 13, probably not a surprise to a lot of you. Actually, I'm going to put these down here so it's more of a surprise. Number 13, Yellow Submarine. And actually, in the last about year or so, I've learned to really love this album. Um, in fact, Hey Bulldog and It's All Too Much on side one are two of my most favorite Beatles songs. But the reason this one ranks so low is because, and it's not because I don't like them, but because it has side two is all George Martin's score from the movie. And I like the score. I think it's cool, and I listen to it every once in a while, but I don't listen to this album all that much. But anyway, number 13, Yellow Submarine. And this is when people are starting to go like, what is this guy talking about? But whatever. Number 12, With the Beatles. I love this album. It's fantastic, but it doesn't get a lot of play from me, and I think the reason for that is because when I was growing up, my mom and dad played this album, actually the American version of this album, Meet the Beatles, has a little bit of different running order, but they played this album over and over and over and over again, and I loved it, and still love it, but I find that I don't really take it out to listen to all that much. I'm not quite sure why. There's so many songs on here I love. I think I just get tired of hearing some of the songs a lot. Like All My Lovin' is played a whole lot on just radio around here. I hear Money a lot, surprisingly, and I Want to Be Your Man really got a hold of me. Anyway, this is number 12 for me, but it's still a fantastic album. In fact, I'm going to stop saying that. You all know these are fantastic albums, so I'm not going to say they're fantastic albums. You know that. Okay, so it was 12. Here is number 11, Please Please Me. Again, I really like this album a whole lot. There really isn't any songs that I don't like. I just think, for me personally, my favorite Beatles are their mid-period to the late period. That's kind of what hit the spot for me. But the early stuff is really cool as well. And I actually do listen to Please Please Me quite a lot. Of all their early Beatles albums, I think I listened to this one probably the most, just because it was one of the last ones I got on vinyl. So I think maybe there's like a newness there for me as far as the vinyl aspect of this album. So there's Please Please Me. Okay, so here's number 10, Help. Help at number 10. Again, I love this. I love this record. I think it's really cool. I do think, though, a lot of people say the Beatles For Sale was like the Beatles, like their low period where they kind of dipped. But in my opinion, I think it was like Help. It has amazing songs. They're all really, really great. But to me, in my opinion, I think it has, as far as Beatle originals, I think it has maybe one of the worst Beatle originals, and that's George's You Like Me Too Much. For some reason, that song always just kind of struck me as kind of a weird tune. I think it's okay, but as far as like a Beatles original, it always just kind of struck me as kind of a weird, kind of like a show tune type song. But I'm sure there's people out there who think that's like the best song on Help, and they're probably screaming right now at me going, what are you talking about? But anyway, that's what I think. So there's Help. And that was, let's see, 13, 12, 11, 10. So, okay, here's number 9, and it's A Hard Day's Night. A fantastic record with all Lennon McCartney songs on it. And yeah, again, this is one of those records that my parents played just over and over and over again. I remember when the CDs came out in 1980, I guess like 87, around that time period. The first CD that they bought was A Hard Day's Night. It was this British version of A Hard Day's Night. And we would listen to that just over and over and over and over again. And in fact, I think some of the first Beatles songs I ever heard were off the Hard Day's Night record. I remember like And I Love Her stuck out to me, and I'll Be Back. In fact, I'll Be Back might be my favorite early Beatles song of all of them. I just love I'll Be Back. So, Hard Day's Night. Okay, so number 8, right? 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Yep. Number 8. Let It Be. Record almost fell out there. And Let It Be, to me, I think it's really an underrated album. So many people talk about the Phil Spector aspect of this record, how he ruined it. That's a quote, making quotes there. It's not just a random bunny rabbit. That he apparently ruined it with his production. I don't think he really ruined it. I think he saved certain songs. Like Across the Universe, I think he did a fantastic job on. I love what he did to I Me Mine, adding strings and extending it. Because without Phil Spector's version of I Me Mine is only like 1:30 or something. But he made it into like a actual pop song in about like 2 minutes or almost 3 minutes. So I think he did a fantastic job on that. I don't hate what he did to Long and Winding Road. I do understand why Paul would be kind of freaked out that this piano ballad that was just kind of just piano and light accompaniment all of a sudden has this huge orchestra with a choir and all that kind of stuff. I get why that is kind of wild, but I don't hate what Phil Spector did to it. My one criticism of what he did, though, is he didn't include Don't Let Me Down on this record, which I don't understand at all. Don't Let Me Down, to me, is one of John Lennon's best songs ever. I think it's way better than Dig a Pony. I love Dig a Pony, but I think it's far better than Dig a Pony. I think it's better than Across the Universe. And I think this album really lacks a lot of John input, to be honest, because really the only John songs on here are Dig a Pony, Across the Universe. I guess One After 909 is kind of a John song, but that's an old Lennon McCartney song. And then he sings half of I Got a Feelin'. So I think it would have been really great to have Don't Let Me Down on this record as well. And I think there was space because side 2 only has 5 songs. So anyway, they actually fixed that with Let It Be Naked. They included Don't Let Me Down, which I think was a great idea. But then they took away Maggie May and Dig It, which are just kind of jams or whatever, but I don't know why they took that away. Anyway, that was a lot of talk about Let It Be, but there's Let It Be. Number 8. I think that's right. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, okay. Here's number 7. And I noticed that Fit to Be Tie-Dye did not include this one in his list, but I did just because when the Beatles put out their CDs in 87, their official 13 albums, they included this album. So here it is for me, A Magical Mystery Tour. And obviously the Beatles originally just released this as an EP with the first 6 songs on side A of this were the EP. There were 2 EPs, and they're just the songs from the film. But then in America, they didn't want to release an EP, so they took those 6 songs, put them on side 1, and then took all the Beatles singles up to that point that hadn't been on an album and put them on side 2 of this record. So you get an amazing album, because side 2 has Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Baby You're a Rich Man, and All You Need Is Love. I mean, that's pretty amazing side 2. And they really work, all these songs really work together fantastically well, because they were all recorded in 1967. So I just love this record. I listen to this a whole lot. This is the mono remaster from 2014. And this sounds so good. I really, really love this record. So that was Magical Mystery Tour. I listen to this all the time. In fact, when I was in like junior high, which I guess it's like 7th and 8th grade out here, I listened to this over and over and over and over again with my friend Ian. This is all we listened to, and we loved it. All right, so 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. Okay, here's number 6. And these next two might cause a little bit of puzzlement, but it's all right. Number 6, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And absolutely love this record. I think it deserves all the praise that it gets. I don't think it's overblown. Really, I think the songwriting on this album, they're absolutely at a peak for me, especially John and Paul. I cannot get enough of Getting Better, Fixing a Hole, She's Leaving Home, Lovely Rita, When I'm 64. All of Paul's contributions to this are just spot on. Some of John's songs on here I think are his best. Obviously, A Day in the Life, which is a John and a Paul song, but more John in my opinion. Day in the Life will go down as just one of the best songs ever. Maybe the best song in the Lennon-McCartney catalog. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I love Good Morning, Good Morning. I think Good Morning, Good Morning is so overlooked. That song is just it's such a rockin' song. I love Paul's guitar solo on it. Anyway, Sgt. Pepper I think is just a fantastic album. Oh, I don't want to forget. I also love Within You, Without You. I think Within You, Without You is just a masterpiece. And I think it is actually overlooked. A lot of times people dismiss that as just kind of like, oh, they let George have his song on their record. I don't think that's true at all. I think it opens side 2 so perfectly. And in fact, there was another George song recorded during the Sgt. Pepper sessions, Only a Northern Song, that ended up on the Yellow Submarine album. That was recorded during these sessions too, and that could have been on the album instead of Within You, Without You. But obviously, the right choice was made with Within You, Without You. So there's Sgt. Pepper. My computer just decided to go to sleep, so I put it on sleep there. Okay, I got to do some more counting here. I think that was number 6, right? So 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, here we go. The top 5. Number 5, Beatles For Sale. This is probably a shocker to a lot of you, because so many people dismiss this album, in my opinion. I think this album is so fantastic. It's so good. It's like the Beatles doing like country and western, but also doing like just pure rock and roll. And it has some of my favorite Lennon-McCartney originals on here. No Reply is just amazing. I love Babies in Black. All Follow the Sun is just one of their early masterworks. 8 Days a Week I love. Every Little Thing, I Don't Want to Spill the Party, What You're Doing are just 3 songs in a row on side 2 that just blow me away. For the longest time, my favorite Beatles song was What You're Doing. I just couldn't get enough of that song. When I was about in junior high and high school, I was obsessed with What You're Doing. I listened to it over and over and over again. And this is an album that I come back to a lot and listen to. And this happens to be the stereo version from the Beatles Blue Box that came out in the late 70s, early 80s. It sounds really good. So, number 5, Beatles For Sale. Oh my gosh, I almost dropped that, but I caught it. It's all good. I'm not going to edit that out. This is real. Well, kind of real. Okay, number 4, Beatles White Album. And this is a mono remaster from 2014. It sounds great, by the way. I'll show you the back, too. Which one's the front? Which one's the back? Well, you can tell because this one's got a stamp with a number on it. I don't know if you care or not, but the White Album, it's just, I love the White Album. I listen to it a whole lot. In fact, I listen to it so much that sometimes I think I get burned out on the White Album. Like, I'll listen to it one day, and then the next day I'll go like, oh man, should I listen to the White Album today? I listened to it yesterday. And I always think like, am I tired of it? But I never am. I always end up listening to it again. So I love the White Album. It has so much music on it. It's so varied, all these different styles. And it's just a really fantastic record. And I know like there's been a lot of talk especially from like George Martin and I guess Ringo, like in the anthology, they say like should have been made into just one album with just all fantastic songs. Or maybe like Ringo said, 2 albums, like the White and the Whiter album. But I think it's great as a double album. I love that it's a double album. It's fun to. It's also kind of fun to think like, oh, what songs would I have not included on the album? If I had to choose 2 songs to take off the White Album, and I challenge you to do this too. If you had to take off 2 songs from the White Album and replace them with 2 songs they didn't put on the White Album, what would you choose? I personally would remove Revolution 9. Even though I like Revolution 9, I would have taken that off, saved it for the anthologies, because on the anthologies it would have been even more mind-blowing, I think, because we would have had like, whatever, 25, 30 years of just waiting to hear what that song sounded like, and then hearing it would have been like, whoa, this is crazy. So I would take off Revolution 9. I also would have taken off Good Night, because I think Good Night, while it's cool and pretty or whatever, it takes a lot of space. I would have replaced those 2 songs with, one, George Harrison's Not Guilty, which I think is such a cool song, and I love it a whole lot. Would put that on the White Album. And I also would have put, what's the other one I would have put? Oh, I would have stuck the B-side Revolution, the Rock and Roll Revolution, on here, instead of putting it on the single with Hey Jude. So that's my White Album spiel there. So that's number 4. Number 3, this is when it gets almost impossible for me, as far as like placing. It's hard to place these albums in an order, but this is my order right now. Number 3, Rubber Soul. This album completely changed my life when I heard it. I just couldn't believe that all these songs were made by these 4 guys, and they're all on just one record. I mean, I don't know. This has probably some of the best songs of all time. It's got Norwegian Wood, Nowhere Man, The Word. I love The Word. I love Wait, the song Wait. Even though it was recorded during the Help sessions, they put it on here, and I just think it's fantastic. In My Life, Looking Through You, Girl's a fantastic song. Anyway, this album, it just blows my mind, and I listen to it quite a lot. This is a Japanese pressing of Rubber Soul. I think I've showed this before on some of my videos, but here it is again. Number 3. All right. Now we're getting down to crunch time. Number 2, Abbey Road. It's a perfect album. It really is. There isn't a single second on this record that I would remove or have changed. It's so good. I listen to this probably at least once a month, just because, I don't know, I always get into a mood where I'm like, God, I want to hear Abbey Road. I love the way it was recorded. I think the drum sound on this album is so great. Kind of set the standard for drums, stereo drums, and just close mic drums. I think they're just really, really cool. And you got to give a lot of credit to Ringo, obviously, and Jeff Emmerich, the engineer from this record. And this album also it's kind of amazing that it's the last one they recorded, considering how good it is. And I think that has a lot to do with the Beatles' legacy. The fact that they stopped at their peak. I really think this was their peak, too, because it's just like, all these songs were just amazing. And think about the songs they recorded solo after this. Like Paul did Maybe I'm Amazed, which is just one of the all-time greatest songs. John went on to do Instant Karma, another one of the all-time greatest songs. George went on to do All Things Must Pass with My Sweet Lord and All Things Must Pass, the title song, and so many other great songs. And even Ringo went on to do like It Don't Come Easy, Photograph. So it's just, these guys are absolutely at their peak, and I think this album is just, it will go down always as one of the best albums by anyone of all time. Okay, and number 1, probably the greatest album of all time by anyone, Revolver. And speaking of peaks, I think this is the Beatles at their peak. It's right after Rubber Soul, which was genius and fantastic, and right before Sgt. Pepper, which was just totally groundbreaking. But I think this is the one where they just hit a stride, and every single song is just amazing. This is also the very first Beatles album I ever owned on my own. It was when the CDs were coming out in the late 80s, and we went to a store, and my parents said, my brother and I, you guys can both go pick out one CD that you want to get for yourselves. And I found Revolver, I took it home, and I didn't know the songs very well. I think I knew Yellow Submarine, and I think I probably knew like Taxman, but that was about it. Um, I remember bringing it home, putting it on the CD player, and I was playing Little League baseball, and I remember it was right before this baseball game I was about to play, and I was listening to Revolver, and for the first time ever, I didn't want to go play baseball. I wanted to stay and listen to Revolver because it was just like, to say it was blowing my mind is an understatement. It was completely taking me over, and I couldn't believe that I could like music as much as I liked this. Uh, it was like every single song got better and better and better. Like, Taxman started, and I was like, wow, this is awesome, this rocks. And Eleanor Rigby started with all these strings. I didn't think I'd ever like strings, you know, but it was blowing my mind. And I'm Only Sleeping with backwards guitar. I didn't even know they were backwards. I just thought it was some weird sound. Love to You, or Love You Too, was just this weird Indian trip that totally blew my mind. Here, There, and Everywhere was and is probably the best melody I've ever heard in my life. In fact, Here, There, and Everywhere has stuck out to me forever. And then Yellow Submarine is great. She Said is just absolutely the best, in my opinion, psychedelic rock song that's ever been recorded. And then, I mean, I keep going on and on. But anyway, and then side 2 is just full of just fantastic songs. Andy Bird Can Sing, one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. Tomorrow Never Knows. I also love Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert is a really cool song. Anyway, so Revolver for me is just one of the best albums ever, and I listen to this album all the time. First Beatles album I ever owned, and I think now I own like 6 versions of Revolver, so I love it. So that's my list of Beatles albums. What's yours? I look forward to seeing what you guys all come up with. So anyway, that's my video. By the way, I have a weekly radio show where well, it's a podcast, but we'll call it a radio show, where I play all vinyl, and it's called Needle Meets Vinyl, and you can check out a link for it down here. So if you ever want to listen to some of these Beatle records that I show you, a lot of times I play cuts from them. I also play other artists as well. So check it out if you get some time, and that's it. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.